what I did is I posted it like I was posting a job. And I said, if anyone's interested, like apply for this. And basically, I'll teach you and I'll find you your clients. So I I didn't take people's money until I found them clients.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7- and 8-figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets Podcast. I'm Pedro, and I'm joined today by Cindy Wagman, a seasoned nonprofit leader with 15 plus years in executive nonprofit roles who made the leap to fractional consulting. She created the first community and program designed specifically for nonprofit folks launching fractional consulting businesses, called the Nonprofit Fractional Network, helping other nonprofit professionals build 6-figure businesses with just 3 clients. Cindy provides a tested, repeatable business in a box model that helps clients land their first client in an average of 93 days, stripping away the overwhelm, imposter syndrome, and guesswork. Her clients are seeing results like making $18,000 plus more than they did at their previous in-house jobs, while gaining the freedom to hug their kids when they walk in the door after school. Welcome to the show, Cindy.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, great to have you. And I always love to go back and rewind a bit to the origin story, because every coach has that moment where they look at their life and say, yeah, I guess this is what I'm doing now, right? So when was that for you, Cindy?
Yeah, so I kind of fell into consulting and therefore coaching as well. So when I was on, so I'm in Canada. We have long maternity and paternity leaves. But when I was on mat leave with my second kid, my mentor had approached me about an organization looking to hire someone to run a capital campaign, a fundraising campaign. And while I thought it was an interesting opportunity, they couldn't pay me enough. And my mentor had walked me through basically how to negotiate it as a part-time contract, which now I would probably call fractional work, or like close to fractional work. And so it kind of happened by accident, where with her help and guidance, I was able to negotiate something that was like a deal you don't pass up. Basically, it's a 2-year contract, 3 days a week, making more than I was making full time in house. Because if you understand, like when you have employees, you have lots of overhead, and not just overhead, like expenses associated with employment, like taxes and stuff like that. Whereas if you have a consultant, you don't necessarily have those. So I was able to reallocate their budget in a way that served them, and they got what they need, and also allowed me to make more money, again, working less. And it gave me enough stability that I could leave my comfortable, cushiony job. So that's when I started consulting. That was in the summer of 2015. And I did a lot of what I thought consultants did. Did a trial and error of things, and really landed on this fractional model. Again, didn't call it that at the time, but that was going really well. I built a small agency, and during COVID, a number of things sort of all collided, and I had to evaluate my business model. So on the one hand, work was really busy. The demand for our work was high. And personally, the demand for me was high. And so I had two school-aged kids. They were young at the time, and it was just my husband, his work was busier, everyone was busier, and our need, like the need for us to be around, was higher. So I decided that instead of growing my business as it was, where I was hiring employees and, overseeing their work and all of that, I would teach other people how to start their own fractional business. And therefore, we could meet the needs of the sector and the demand for the work. But I could also profit without me having to do all the work. So that was in late 2021. I was going to say 2001. That's not accurate. Late 2021. And by 2023, I had launched our official curriculum and program after testing it out very quietly for a couple years. And to date, I think we probably just passed the 100 mark in terms of number of fractionals we've had coming into the program. So yeah, that's, I think, where I sort of transitioned into more of a business coach around 2021, where I started teaching others everything that I learned.
Interesting. Okay, it sounds like there are two moments here that are key, right? The first one, you have the in-house experience, and then you shift towards teaching others, right?
Yeah.
Usually at this point, I like to understand when that shift started from I'm helping people to I'm building a real coaching practice around this. But for you, it's kind of different. It's more like I had this consulting experience, turned to fractional, turn to in-house, now turn to coaching. So walk me through the experience of the pivoting towards coaching. How did that play out? How that felt for you? From, at the end of the day, consultants, they find a lot of friction towards people, right? They're trying to implement systems and all of that, and then they're finally finding the big boss, right? But I want to understand from your point of view, how did that play out with your clients, right? The fractional people.
Yeah. So I was wading into some unknown territory, and I always like to think of like myself as experimenting or iterating. So the process was less a pivot and more like a slow meandering turn. So literally what happened, so again, I had this agency, we were doing fractional work. We called it something else, but it's basically what I teach people now is fractional. So we were doing this. I had about 5 or 6 employees, and it was during COVID. So while we had an office, we were all working remotely. And and we had clients asking to work with us. So what I did is I think I posted it like I was posting a job, and I said, if anyone's interested, like apply for this, and basically I'll teach you and I'll find you your clients. So I didn't take people's money until I found them clients. So like, I don't know if this is going to work. I have nothing to offer than a little bit of a leap of faith. So I reduced people's risk to be part of that experiment. And I had 2 people who were the right fit and people I felt like, okay, I could help. I felt comfortable referring work to them. And so I did, and I basically referred them work, and I supported them, and I taught them how to run the business, and these are the things you need to do to set up your business, and So we had those 2 people. They got fully booked. I think it was 2, could have been 3. And then as they got fully booked, I was like, okay, let's see. There's still more demand. So I think I recruited 3 or 4 more people. Same type of thing. I think I increased what they would pay me, but I still referred them their first client and didn't take payment until after they had their paying customer, because it was like, I don't know if this is a business yet. After I think about 10 people, maybe 7 to 10 people, I was like, okay, this is a thing. This is a business. So I say that like it was this meandering turn because I really was testing it out. And so I wanted to do things that felt aligned with me. ethically and like letting people know this is not like this has worked for me and my business, but we're still figuring this out. So take a risk, but I'll minimize the risk for you. And we also had some people who were like still working in house in their full-time job who joined at that time, and they only gave notice after they got clients. So it was really an experiment. And then once I felt like we had that proven, then I was able to fully dive into the work as a coach, as a business coach. So I think for a while I had our clients and members of our network, and then it just we basically ended all of our contracts, and I moved 100% into the current business.
Okay, but let me ask you well, first of all, I think that's very interesting and a very important reminder. I see a lot of coaches that they're like, oh, I'm getting this launched, I'm getting, this offer and all of that. And then they promote it. But sometimes you can task the audience just like you did, right? And it's like, if I have this, would you be interested? Or would you think that's cool? Would you, and then you have real feedback from people that are already in your network, so
Yeah.
that's a very important reminder. I think that is pretty cool. But I have a question for you, which is that I want to understand when the hat changed from, and I know you do some consulting work, right? I know that. But when did you feel like, oh, coaching actually is something that is like in the mix here, in the bag here? When did you feel like, oh, I'm grabbing also the coaching hat,
Yeah. So I would describe myself as like a business coach, just so that everyone is clear. I have a more traditional coaching certification, but I don't consider myself a traditional coach. I consider myself a business coach. So my methodology and all the things are really, I'm like an educator and coach. And so I went really the transition was when we let go of our like my business at the time was called the Good Partnership. When we let go of all of our one-to-one clients or all of our fractional clients was really when it was like final, like I'm done doing the implementation work. I'm now fully a coach and educator. So that probably was around late 2022, early 2023. Approximately. That whole time was a bit of a blur, so I don't know 100%, but I think it was around then. And so that was the sort of official moment, but as I said, I started that transition a little bit earlier, just in terms of experimenting and all of that. I actually got that like formal coaching certification while I was still doing fundraising work. Now I don't work directly with nonprofits. I only work with consultants. But again, I had got the coaching certification because I saw how organizations approached fundraising and that they needed mindset and coaching work more than just the tactical stuff. But to be honest, like when it comes to running the business, I love the tactical stuff. I love the business strategy and all of that. So that's really where I think I bring the most value to my clients, and my unique experience, and just being so far ahead of where most of them are, like that's where I have the most value to contribute. So
okay. And who are the people that, after you got rolling this new venture, who kept showing up, the ones you realize, okay, this is my tribe, because there's a lot of trial and error in the early days. I can bet some people are just looking for a job, that it was like a job application. They're like, hey, can I work with you? So just trying to understand the people that you're like, okay, this is my ideal client profile. This is the type of person I can work best with.
Yeah. So I really like fractional work is not for everyone. It is very implementation based as a consulting model. So there's tons of different consulting models. So I always look for people who are experienced and they understand the strategy, but they also they love rolling up their sleeves and, doing the work. So from a core capacity, that's what I look for. But also, like, I've always, been pretty clear about our values. as like a business and myself as a business owner. So we definitely like talk about are a place for people who believe in social justice and all of that. So there's the values, there's the core competencies, and then there's also just something about like you gotta want to be your own boss. Like I will say, I think the case for individuals to become fractional consultants is very strong. Like it's especially if you're either if you're in-house or if you're already consulting. Like if you're in-house and you're feeling trapped, you only need 3 clients to make 6 figures a year. It's a very low risk consulting model, but that doesn't mean it's the right fit consulting model for individuals, right? Like so I think that the case is really strong. And I have had people who I've talked to, and it's like they're frustrated in terms of trying to find a job, and so they think, well, this it looks and sounds so easy. Like it's still work. And if it's not your first choice, if your first choice is a job, go find a job. It should make sense to you from your experience and from your goals in life. And that you should, again, I have people who are consultants and who are like, I really just want to get out of the day-to-day work, and I really just want to be giving advice and doing strategy. Great. Again, fractional is not that. And so I would say a lot of it is just, it sounds really good if you're struggling with consulting or struggling in house and want to leave, but it's definitely not for everyone. It's not for every organization either. And so it's really about fit and educating people around when it's a good fit and when it's not. And similarly, I try to educate organizations around when they should look at a fractional versus when they should not.
Okay. Now, I want to talk on the part that nobody escapes, right? Which is marketing. And you kind of browse through it already. Like when you mentioned you posted and people resonated with your post and what started this and the new venture and all that. Now, how do people today usually find you, in the first place?
So today, obviously, my business is very different than when I started in business for myself in 2015 and when I started doing this more structured coaching in 2023. Now, I would say LinkedIn so word of mouth, always and forever, I think is the strongest. And even if someone doesn't discover me through word of mouth or discover my program through word of mouth, I do know people ask around in the sector because it's a very small sector. And so I encourage that. I'm like, ask around. I always think your reputation is your best business card. Like your work should speak for itself. So word of mouth, and then LinkedIn. I do run ads. I've experimented a lot. I've tried a lot of, as you can hear, I like experimenting with things. I like trying things. So in my business before, when we were doing fundraising work, I wrote a book. I had a podcast. I've had 2 more podcasts since then. So I like doing all the things. So podcasting, I think, has always been really good for brand development. People really get to know me. I always my favorite compliment when I meet people in person is like, you're exactly how you are online, or you're exactly how I thought you'd be based on your podcast. So I really like long form audio content. And so I've had that, but that I would say is less discovery and more trust building. I have run ads. So Meta ads, Facebook and Instagram ads are like consistently the cheapest with some consistent ROI. It's like, yeah, it's actually pretty good. I've also experimented because I really would rather not give my money to Mark Zuckerberg and prefer to spend it with other people in the sector. So I've tried advertising on other people's platforms in the nonprofit sector. Those consistently have not performed, like have actually been pretty terrible. It's like 0 revenue for a lot of them, or very high cost per lead, like hundreds of dollars cost per lead versus like $2-3 cost per lead with 0 with zero conversion versus like some conversion. There's one conference I exhibit at actually in a couple weeks. I have had some success with that in the past, but it's very expensive. And actually, that's more brand building than like I like to look at advertising. If I'm doing advertising, I want it to have a very clear ROI. Some of it, like this conference, I think is just more building a presence in the sector. So I will do that. It's very expensive, but I think it's worth it to be in the room and to take up space. And it has led to some conversions. But word of mouth and LinkedIn and podcasting, I've guested on a ton of nonprofit sector podcasts as well. I've done a ton of webinars over the years. I think those, again, are great for trust and reputation building, but I don't think they're great for direct sales. Does that answer? Yeah.
Well,
and I'm trying to think if there's any other things I've experimented with, but those are the big ones.
No, it answers super consultant answer, by the way. Also, shout out to old Zuckerberg, right? Gotta love him. Now
it works. It hurts, but it works.
It hurts, but it works. Okay, I love that. Now, let's say I listened to one of your podcasts. Someone referred you to me, word of mouth. I clicked on an ad. You name it. Whatever thing you're out there a lot, sounds like. But that resonated with me, and I'm like, this sounds cool, right? I want to talk to Cindy. I'm not necessarily saying you are going to hop on a call, but I hop on a call with you or your team, and it sounds like also that alignment and understanding where this is going is very important. So that call seems to be very important, the first one, right? Now, let's say
I don't do sales calls like that.
No.
So
out?
I will walk you through the sales process because it's very different. I right now my program is launch based. So because it's a one-to-many scalable offer, and a lot of it is like asynchronous learning, and then the coaching really takes place in a group container through office hours. And so what I do is I actually try not to do too many calls. If someone I know refers someone to me, I will book a off cycle call with them. But I get so many requests for random calls that I very much limit. I limit that. But basically, so I have enrollment periods and launch periods. And so right now we're recording this, it's early April. Our next launch kicks off actually next week with a open house on May 12th, and then an enrollment period during that time. So I do a lot of it's very heavy in email, lots of warm up education. That's also why I have the podcast I have right now is a private podcast. So people have it's like a lead magnet. So there's lots of warm up, lots of sharing information. I'm very transparent. I share all the dates, I share all the pricing, all the information as much as I can. I want people to feel prepared as they're making a decision whether or not they should join us, as opposed to pressured. I want them to feel excited, but there are timelines, and so I feel like they need that information earlier to be ready to take advantage of the timelines. So I share a lot over email, and then we typically have an open house. And in the past, I've done applications, but this May we're trying just like immediately you can join. And if you want a decision call, I'm happy to book during the enrollment period. So I make myself available for what I call decision calls, which are kind of like sales calls, but they're because I share so much information. I really like people, I'm there to answer their questions at that point. I feel like I've sold as much as I can. I've shared all the things that I can. And so I'm available for those calls during that period. So that's that. And we historically have launched twice a year. In January, I do a big virtual summit and then move into the launch from that. And then in May, it's more email and open house. And so, yeah, I don't do as many, like I said, from time to time I will do an off-cycle sales call, but usually it has to be pretty like someone I know is sending someone to me. They're like, you need this person needs your help. And so yeah, that's that.
Okay, good to know. That was means to an end. I was like, okay, forget about the sales call. The question behind the question is like,
Yeah.
walk me through the experience of the point of view, right? From a client being onboarded, how would that look like? And you kind of mentioned the group coaching, you mentioned
Yes.
group setting, you mentioned the asynchronous coaching, not sure how that looks like. So just walk me through the outcomes and what your perspective, you know?
So our curriculum, I've spent a lot of time designing an onboarding and curriculum experience that I think is hopefully quite exceptional, but also designed to help people take action, move forward, and feel really good about what they're doing, and of course, get results. And so when someone joins, when they sign up and join the program, also I love automations and stuff and things. So when they join, they get a contract. Even though we have terms and conditions that you click on our thing, I really think it's important to have signed contracts. So they check out online with our checkout, and then they get a contract. When the contract is signed, they get their official welcome email where they can log into our online platform. I use something called Experientify. It's super random, but it's actually really cool because they have a lot of things that are built for creating unique experiences and within the platform. So they get the login for that. I automate that they get a welcome card through a company called Handwritten, but written is spelled like WRYTTEN or something like that. Handwritten. So basically it looks like I'm writing the card, but it sends them out automatically and I never touch it. So that's the onboarding. So a few days later, someone will get a card in the mail that's like, welcome to the program. So excited to have you here, etc. Then as they log in, so one of the things I love about the platform is when you check off one of your action items, it goes ding, and you get like a little check mark. And so every little action is celebrated. And then we have little celebrations when you hit different milestones that like take over your whole computer screen with like confetti and stuff. So I just love that. I'm such a nerd. I'm sorry. But if anyone else loves those things, it's fantastic. And then so they start this self-paced curriculum. They also get added to our group calendar. And again, this might be like too in the weeds. I apologize, but I hate group calendars. They're designed so poorly where you can't I want to be in people's main calendar, and most group calendars like creates a secondary calendar and then it doesn't block the time off. Anyways, I have like a listserv, so people get added to that. So automatically when someone joins, all of our group coaching sessions get added to their calendar and blocked off as unavailable in their main calendar so that they can protect that time and show up live. So they have access immediately to the curriculum and they can start working through the videos. Again, every time they get through something, they get a little ding, cha-ching, whatever sound it makes. And once they're in like a few videos into the onboarding, they can join our community Slack channel, which as of today, I was like, I need to automate some sort of a welcome to Slack, which I haven't done, but they introduce themselves there. So it's really designed like to make it as easy as possible for them, or like as few steps as possible. And yeah, so we have the curriculum, we have office hours, which are with me or one of my coaches working through asking questions. Sometimes we just chat, like today we just chatted about the world. And then Slack, which is for community support as well as direct messaging me. And then when people reach different milestones in the program, there's also little surprises that are automated to celebrate their progress. So,
you know, I'm just picturing that one client who's on mute and he's clicking, he's not getting the full experience, right? The blaze and all that. He didn't realize, oh my God, he's losing so much, right?
Yeah, seriously. But when it takes over your whole screen, then they should be like, "Whoa." It's
my
pretty
God.
fun.
This is
It's like a
exactly
little
what I was looking for.
animation. But
Finally.
honestly, like, yeah, I'm obsessed with it because I want it to be fun. I want people to
Right.
celebrate like every little step because truly their progress and success is not in the big things, it's in the consistent small steps and showing up and doing one thing after another. And there's a bunch of research out there. I cannot quote it, but that also improves people's success rate and follow through and all of those things, which is also really important to me as someone who's not working one-on-one with people and is in this group container. I am very obsessed with like making sure people actually like do the work. So I have automations where if someone doesn't reach a certain milestone, then I will, like, it's automated in Airtable to send them an email being like, hey, notice you haven't done this yet, or notice I track people I track attendance in office hours. And so I can see if there's someone who I haven't seen who hasn't been in office hours in 2 months, like I'll reach out and say like, how you doing? So it's important for me to track and have eyes on people's progress in the program so that if they fall through the cracks, it's not because of me.
And they're like, okay, mom. No, I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
exactly. No, kind of. That's legitimate.
Yes. No. Okay. Now, I'm curious about where you're taking all this, Cindy. Looking ahead, where do you see the business going? Are you thinking about scaling, hiring, or is there a next step you're excited about?
Yeah, I mean, right now we're in scaling. So we just did a mini European launch. So we had 3 people join from Europe. So until now, I've had Canada, US, and a few countries in Southern Africa. And so I'm in Canada. I want to diversify and be a little less reliant on our
You can say
neighbors to the
it. You
south.
can say
I was
it.
gonna say our allies. I think we're still allies, but you're my allies. But the relationship between Canada and the U.S. is unlike anything I've seen in my life, and so just diversifying, making sure that we have other sources of revenue and clients. And I think that the European market is a great fit. So we did that, and I'd like to continue to grow and scale. And I have a couple like smaller offers that I'm going to be introducing over the next few months. So really it's scale. The core program is basically designed to be able to grow however fast or however big we want it to. And I've been thinking of like, what does it look like in 10 years from now? At which point, and I don't know if I've said this publicly, but like, I feel like at that point, probably the business will not be mine anymore. I'd love to find someone who can take over and buy me out. Or something. But I know myself too, like I'm a builder. I like to build things. And so I think I'll be ready if not earlier, but I think I'll be ready to try something else. But for now, I like have very unique offer. I'm literally this is the only program in the world like this. There are only, I would say, under 10 programs globally that work with nonprofit consultants. This is the only one for fractional. No one can touch me or the company in terms of the experience and expertise that we bring to the table to help consultants and help nonprofit folks become consultants with a fractional model. So I think that that's only picking up speed. Fractional is definitely trending right now, and I'll ride that trend for as far as it'll take me. Will it last forever? Who knows? There will be something else, I'm sure. But for now, I think there's a lot of growth still.
Okay. And of course, whenever we're aiming towards the next chapter, always something we're refining in the present. So what are you currently trying to improve or tighten up in your business?
In the business, I was gonna say, like, in my life right now, we're prioritizing savings and just really making it so that by the time my husband and I are 55, we can be work optional. We'll see how that goes. In the business, really, the thing I'm working on right now is like selling through email. That's the thing. Like I want to really make it so that every launch we have is super strong, maybe a little less reliant on me as the face of the. I've already tried to like remove my image from a lot of places, but it's not about me, it's about the community, it's about the work, and I do have a pretty strong personal brand and presence, but I'm sort of trying to shift a little bit away from that. So yeah, that's what I'm working on right now.
Exciting. Now I love that. Now, if someone listening wants to connect with you or follow your work, and we're going to have all the description links under here in the description, all the links, but where can people find you, or is there any specific channel you want them to reach out? We're all ears.
So there's two places online that I would say we have the most presence. One is our website, nonprofitfractionals.com. There is so much information there. If this is like resonant with anyone, that's the place to get started. Just to connect with me, LinkedIn is my social media platform of choice. You find my personal profile, Cindy Wagman, and connect with me there.
Cindy, there were a few things you shared today that really stayed with me. I love the start, right? That you told me that would happen by accident. And then you started from an idea of a part-time, which turned into a fractional work. And then you realize, okay. And then you started your own business doing that in-house. And then moving from that to this idea, which sounds very unique, consulting for non-fractional, sorry, consulting for nonprofit fractional work. Okay, I got that. I think I got that right. Well, that is so unique. So yeah. And also I think it's so interesting the way you create your the way you launch your business through the email list. So yeah, most times I talk with coaches that there is a sales call involved, but there's not necessarily needs to happen. You're just showing that on the show, which I think is pretty cool. And also a powerful reminder from at least my perspective. This is one of the first times that I've seen a coach saying that out loud in the open is the exit, right? Which is, I mean, it's totally normal, and people feel like kind of icky to talk about that, but I think it's super normal to have that vision, the idea of potentially exiting the business. And I think it puts you in the perspective of valuation. It puts you into thinking about your own systems. So it's like what it would look like if I sell this in 10 years or 5 years. So what are the systems I need to put in place, using automation, like you said, or whatever feels like it, but having the mindset of a business, of a CEO, and not necessarily as a coach only. So this is my long-winded way of saying that I appreciate what you do, and I appreciate you being here and sharing so openly today. It was great having you on.
It's my pleasure.
You can add whatever you're gonna add right now. I'm open to it.
No, I was gonna say the interesting thing about what you were saying about like the systems, like the selling is obviously part of the goal, but those systems were put in place more for this, again, as I mentioned, the customer experience. I really, really as my business grew, I really wanted to make sure that people were getting results, because if they're not getting results, I don't have a business. And so all the automations and, back end was actually designed first and foremost for that. And as a consequence, also a happy consequence, it allows me to step out of or it allows the information to live outside of my head, which allows us to think about selling in the future.
100%, but it's good to, like, I'll give you an example before we close this out. Like, I had a person that was a coach in the past. He told me, like, some people tell me it's hard to hire like 5 people or 6 people or 10 people. I had to hire 10,000 in a week for a
my
corporate
gosh.
business he had. So whenever you had that mindset of like, oh, I need to put systems, of course, it's to help the business and all of that. But sometimes people they forget they need to distance sometimes of the
Yeah.
the operation side and all of that. So it doesn't rely on them. So the
Yeah.
exiting is one way of doing that. But of course, it doesn't mean you wouldn't have the already the mentality to do that. It's just a natural progress right now because you already
Yeah.
have the systems, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, great having you on.
Thanks again.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.